All right, we're back. We're going to talk about Jerome McGinley. Speaking of coming back, this is a guy who rejected the Boston Bruins, decided to say, you know what, I want to play with Sid the Kid in Pittsburgh. Didn't work out for him. Boston ended up knocking him out of the East Final, and Boston was just a few games short of winning the Stanley Cup Final. Now, you look at it the other way, offseason, decides, you know what, I will play for Boston. And what's really amazing is, because we were just chatting about this before the break, or just in the break or during the break, that Iginla's skill set suits Boston perfectly, and this year is an evident reason why he's got 30 goals. Now, guys, is he this X factor? You always talk about an X factor on a team, a guy that could put you over the hump. Is he that guy that could put this team into the Stanley Cup playoffs and maybe bring a Stanley Cup to Boston?
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't even think the Bruins would want him after what happened last year at the deadline. I thought he'd burned his bridges there, but I guess he's a classy guy. He's obviously, like you said, suits their style of play, and yeah, he's doing amazing this year, and I could definitely see him taking them to the Cup Finals for sure.
I think the same. I've always been an Iginla fan. My grandson won't like that, but I really have. I've always admired the way he played, and he's always been a class act, both on the ice and off the ice. But he's probably one of the grittiest, skilled hockey players you'll ever find. Like, he's
willing
a
to
tough,
drop the
tough
gloves.
guy.
He's willing to do that. I think this was evident, and I think the coaching staff's a little afraid of that, so they're telling him to maybe save that a little bit more. So last thing they want is for him to break his hand. But at the pace he's at, do you feel this is more of a rejuvenation period for him, that if he can sustain this throughout obviously the 82 games this year, but even through the playoffs, you're looking at a good solid 20-plus games for him at least, because they're going to be in some tough battles.
But think about this. He left the Calgary Flames that were losing hockey games, and they drug him down. Every day they were trading him. He's got a new lease on life where he is right now, and I think you've added probably 2 or 3 years to his career by him going to Boston.
And maybe a Stanley Cup. Who knows, like you said, Tyler. All right, well, I'm going to ask you guys this. Final Four, NCAA has been determined. You have the Florida Gators, the only #1 seed to make it, the top seed out of all the #1s. And then you have UConn, that's really surprised a lot of teams. Kentucky, one of the toughest teams, even though given an 8 seed. And Wisconsin. Is this Florida's year to lose? Just their strength of, their team? They have that team mentality, unlike you see with some. But is it their year to lose?
Yeah, I think so. I think, teams going in with a #1 seed, they have a lot more pressure than teams that are like 7, 8 seed. They're not expected to win, so they just go out there and play. Whereas the Gators they're expected to win, and if they lose, it's a huge upset. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, and what about you?
I got to go with what he says because I'm not a real fan. So,
but you got to at least appreciate the coaching styles and how this team is developed. They don't necessarily have all these all-stars like they did in the early 2000s, but they're the definition of a team, and that's what you ultimately are trying to look for when you're trying to win a title, correct? Especially
right.
In college, you only have these kids for 3 or 4 years tops, very similar to junior.
That's right, and you need character kids in order to pull it off. And if you've got a group of character kids, you can go a long ways. Sometimes they're not the most skilled kids in the world, like the Bobcats proved this year. But if you have character kids, you can go a long ways.
Saying I'm not skilled or what?
The gloves are off. Put them on.
All right, guys, we're going to have to keep it civil for at least the time being. Actually, I want to talk about the NBA draft coming up. I know you guys are big into hockey. For me, this is a big thing, especially when you have college kids. Kids entering college, they're what they're calling one-and-dones. The NBA implementing a rule a few years back saying you have to at least play 1 year of college. And a lot of these kids are basically using this, not necessarily to get an education, but using it as a stepping stool to get to where they need to. And a lot of these kids have enough talent to go to the NBA without college. Andrew Wiggins being one of those kids, spending a year in Kansas, entering the draft as he said he was going to be eligible yesterday. Tyler Ennis, after Syracuse lost, another Canadian, is going to be entering the NBA draft, considered probably the top point guard or maybe the second best point guard that's going to go into the draft. So that says a lot about the talent-wise. And then there's Jabari Parker from Duke University, who's a talent. But I want to ask you guys from a philosophical question. these kids have the talent, and sure enough, they could play in the NBA, but should they, in their right minds, take maybe an extra year to develop their skill set, or do you feel, you know what, get paid? That's what you're here for. If it's your career, go for it.
I think that they should stay in college for another year. One of the reasons is, what happens if you get hurt?
No, you could get hurt in college. You lose out all
I
that money.
know, but if you get hurt your first year in the NBA or whatever sport you take up, what do you do then?
Yeah, like your first couple of years, you're not making that much money anyway.
Oh, certainly a lot than I am, that's for sure. So I
Yeah.
think that'll be a given. But guys, like, you feel that these kids, I know, Tyler, in terms of where you may take your path, we don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know. But I imagine Div 1 might be something that you might be interested into, going to the University NCAA.
Yeah.
If you so choose to do that, if you had the opportunity and said a club came up to you, an NHL club, said, you know what, Tyler, we would like you to be on our team. We want you to come and play for us. Would you forego, if you were in university, would you forego your final 2 years, 3 years of eligibility to go to the pros?
I probably would, yes. I'd like to say I wouldn't. But obviously that's like a hockey player's dream and goal is to make the NHL. So if I had that opportunity, I think 100% I'd take it.
See, you're going to deny him
I
his
know.
dream?
I know.
I know, it makes sense, though. I understand where it comes from the education standpoint, but I think there's that fear when you have kids saying an extra year, and it's happened with college football, where they say an extra year, get hurt, and then all of a sudden their stock goes down. So instead of earning that, $5 million, $6 million guaranteed money, they'll be lucky to get a six-figure contract. That's what I'm getting at. So guys, thank you for doing this. We still have a lot in show. And hopefully you guys don't necessarily go toe-to-toe. We do have gloves here, by the way. All right, when we return, we're going to have Over Under coming up.